Hello everyone and welcome to Choker on Thursday. I'm Malcolm Pein, an international chess master from the UK. I'll be talking about the chess in Choker. I'm delighted to have as my co-commentator Jeff Gross, a poker professional with over $5 million of tournament earnings. Jeff will be offering his knowledge of poker and also his insights into the poker in Choker, while I'll commentate on the fast and furious chess phase of this revolutionary game, which, as we see, is developing all the time. My thanks to Chess24 for hosting, and remember, you can download this free-to-play app from either the Apple Store or Google Play. Tonight, we've got a Choker Duel WSO between GingerGM Grandmaster Simon Williams, playing out of Surrey near London, and FIDE Master Gauri Shankar, who's playing from Chicago in the United States. This should be an interesting matchup. We've seen the GingerGM play a couple of times before. We know absolutely nothing about the Choker style or abilities of Gauri Shankar, although Jeff, he's clearly a pretty good chess player. I can tell you that his FIDE rating is 2347, but otherwise, I think he's the ultimate dark horse of this game.
Yeah, this is going to be exciting. I am curious about the new rule changes that have been implemented since last week, and I think this is a great development for the future of the game of Choker. And again, people may say, well, it's not how it was, or it's this changes things, and some of the players were playing this way. But you got to remember, in sports, in all types of games, there's changes all the time. Poker changes, rules change. It's been around forever. New implementations to try to make the game more enjoyable, more fun. And this is exactly what we're seeing, with already some really nice adjustments to sort of the gameplay and functionality. We saw Bill Perkins, Ms. Botez sort of fall victim to the intricacy of the rule, and with the chips, and basically this gives you more authentic, I guess, poker sort of component of the game, where it alerts you about your chips. You don't just blind off and lose. If you have chips, you're sort of still in, or it automatically will tell you, hey, you got to be all in or you're going to lose. So I think this is really nice to see this was made immediately, adjustments, and the game was updated.
And I think that this rule change, it's more intuitive, isn't it, for poker players? They feel like it's more to what they're used to experiencing in poker, when no matter how few chips you have left, you've still got one shot, right? So I guess it probably makes the game a little bit more, if you like, poker compliant. Could I put it that way?
Yeah, no, it is. It's right in line with the rules in that. And again, you even see it wasn't just Bill Perkins. We saw Miss Botez, who is very aware of the game and what's going on, and she got kind of taken by surprise there, and she wasn't even aware of that rule. And yeah, it's really nice to see that they've changed this, and we'll see how the players kind of adjust and are. I think it's just going to be beneficial for the viewer, for the gameplay, and just all around. This is a great change.
And we've heard from Choker Control, if you like, that this rule change will be implemented for the final. And we must remind everyone that at this time next week, we will have the final of the Challengers Choker Cup between Grandmaster Hikaru Nakamura and Eric Rosen, International American Eric Rosen. This should be a fantastic matchup, and looking forward to Eric, whose course has come through all the way from the last 8 to battle his way through to the final. Hikaru, we know, plays an awful lot of Choker in a non-competitive sense. So we have the first hand. The game is in 3 phases. We're seeing now the betting phase, where players get their cards with chess pieces on, and if they think they're valuable chess pieces that'll be very strong when the chessboard appears, they might bet. If they think they're weaker chess pieces, they might fold, and all the possibilities in between. And we have our favorite hand, Jeff. 2 pawns for Gauri Shankar.
I actually can't. Well, that's a question we need to get answered. I'm not. Mine is not. I'm not able to see the screen at the exact moment. So you're gonna have to talk through the action. Try to get this sorted out here. But the pawn dilemma, I would love to get a clear answer if having 2 pawns to start is really bad, or what we think is actually pretty good. Still have a clear answer.
Gauri Shankar had 2 pawns. He folded actually with almost no hesitation, but as we know, if you get a 3rd pawn in Choker, you get a promotion, you get a more valuable piece, and so it's possibly worth holding if you have plenty of chips. Okay, so Simon's drawn a rook and a knight against Gauri Shankar's rook and bishop. That's pretty level. Simon's raised him. Gauri Shankar's running out of time. We have a limit to the amount of time you can think about each bet he's called. Simon's drawn another rook, so 2 rooks and a knight, whereas Ravi Shankar's actually got rook, bishop, and 2 pawns, so he's behind at the moment. He'll have to hope he gets a queen on the river. The pot is 12.75k. Simon playing aggressively, raising again. And Gauri Shankar has folded again, which was possibly a good call. Certainly the odds were slightly against him, but as we've seen in previous matches, anything can happen when there's just a small material disparity going into the river. Okay, they're into the betting phase again. It's 15,500 against 2.5.
Yeah, the difference there is, so it's not a big deal to fold at the beginning, but you can see he actually went to later streets and folded. So, that is a bit of an issue, because when you do that, that means you're giving up a pretty big advantage, right? You're sort of pot committed. The odds to continue make more sense. So as you have more invested in fold, now you can see, it's a pretty big disparity here. So even now, he's gonna have to win just to get back in the game with this disparity. So even if you were to win, it'd still be 11k to 9k. So a nice advantage here.
And I think Simon's ahead on the pieces. They've both got a queen, but I think that's a promoted piece for Simon. You'll see it come on the board. First of all, we're seeing the customary pawns around the king to provide some kind of protection.
Yeah, it's even. Both have the queen. I mean, these are pretty good looking hands.
There's going to be a lot of chess action here. Both sides have a queen. Kings are always relatively unsafe in Choker because there are so few pieces on the board at the beginning. Lots of wide open spaces. Lots of chances for sneaky checks and stuff. There goes Gauri's second knight. Yep, that's the promoted rook, which Simon puts on the G1 square, where it's pressuring this knight along the open file. So there's an immediate threat to the black position. And Gauri's going to have to defend that knight because white moves first in chess. So we've got the placement phase. We've had the betting phase. We're into the placement phase now. It's very important you get this right. Counterattack. So that bishop that Gauri Shankar's put on the board is threatening Simon's rook directly. That is not very sociable, but he still has a problem with this knight. Simon's popped his queen in the corner. Gosh, that's amazing. Simon is attacking 2 pieces at the same time with his queen. Gauri's going to struggle to defend all of that. He's defended one of them, but that means that his knight is a target. As soon as the game starts and the clock starts running down, the players have 180 seconds each. So Simon's first... Simon's blundered his queen! He didn't spot Gauri's sneaky queen move there. A discovered attack. The bishop has moved all the way down to f2, giving check. The king has to take the bishop, and now, whoosh, that queen swoops down, wins the white queen, and hit the white rook at the same time. What a disaster. Simon can't believe he blundered so badly. And now it's queen.
The game, right? There's always,
absolutely.
People make errors. The best in the world sometimes have a blunder, and you can see he is visibly upset. He got a haircut. He's looking intense, but that was a blunder for sure. And
a blunder of the first order. And it's going to be very unpleasant for him now because he will not be able to defend all his pieces. That's a very unpleasant double attack. It's attacking the knight, which is defending the rook, and the rook's attacked as well. So all white's piece coordination is going. Trying to use his king. When you have to use your king, it's a sure sign things are going badly. A queen and knight, as we said in previous matches, a queen and knight, they're all right because they complement each other so beautifully. The queen moves horizontally, it moves vertically, it moves diagonally, but the knight does something unique in chess. It moves in a weird kind of L. So that means that you've essentially got all kinds of moves. You've got all the squares covered. I think Simon's position is almost resignable here. I think he's just going to resign in a minute. Queen A1 check will win his rook. It's just gone. Yeah, look at the look on his face. He's disgusted. How much time has Gauri got? 90 seconds. He could finish this in 10. Yep, Simon's having a swig of that. It's a different beer, I think, tonight, Jeff. It looks like Western. That looks like... I don't know. What kind of beer
else.
That is.
He's had different each time. He's mixing up. He did get on the board. He won. He was out of the Choker Cup. He did win in the duel last week. This is another Duel. They're battling, and he's still going to be okay though. I mean, he's still got chips behind, and he'll still have the lead, even with relinquishing this game within the clash. So he's not hasn't lost the clash yet, but
no,
definitely he's got to clean it up. He's not going to be able to win with those type of mistakes.
And there it is. Queen takes e2, choke mate. Gauri Shankar wins the pot, and Simon, having started with a material advantage in that game, he's down on the chips, and he must have been thinking that he could go one up, but that's not how it's going to be. Okay, 2 pawns. Oh, they both got 2 pawns. Now this will be interesting.
Yeah, what their thought is on that. Again, I gotta find out. I'm not by the final. We gotta have an answer. I gotta know what that means.
Simon's drawn a third pawn. He's got a rook.
Oh, there you go.
Simon's promoted to a rook. Oh, but so's Gauri. So Gauri Shankar actually slightly ahead on material. I think that'll be 2 rooks against a rook and bishop. Ah, a 4th pawn. That's most unusual. That's been promoted again. So Simon has promoted a 4th pawn to a queen. So he's got a queen and a rook on board. So he should be very well placed in this game, because Gauri Shankar doesn't have a queen. Simon does. That's usually decisive in choker in the chess phase. Let's see. That's very unusual, Jeff. I'm not sure we've had a 4th pawn promotion to a queen so far in choker, but there are.
I don't remember
one. No, there are 16 pawns in a hand of 44, so there's a decent chance you're going to get a 4th pawn out of 5.
Now here we see 2,000 chips, so it's an 18K pot. Now the blinds are where they're at. It's 2,000 remaining for GingerGM if he were to lose, but the blind does that mean he's all in automatically next hand, or does that mean that he is out because he can't cover the big blind because he has 2K and he's in red though? Both players are in red.
Wow. So they're effectively all in, right?
Essentially, yeah. This is must win. Gauri got an Empress.
An Empress, yeah. 3 of a kind and 2 of a kind.
A full house equivalent in poker. So some powerful hands here.
So Gaur, this is very interesting. Very difficult to see what the bishop is on the long diagonal. That's a very logical place to put your bishop. It's got a lot of control. It's also covering that h8 square so that Gauri can't sneak down with a check on h8. So they've both got a queen. Gauri got an Empress, promoted to a queen. He's actually slightly ahead, but in choker, it's not that clear. Two rooks and a queen against a rook, a queen, and a bishop. The key now is Simon's placement, because Gauri is threatening a diabolical check down there. That would not be very nice. So Simon needs to think: is he going to defend next move, or is he just going to punt it? I think he might put his queen somewhere where it threatens this weak pawn, maybe. That pawn is an undefended pawn. I didn't quite understand that placement of the pawn. And the king, the black king, has a bolt hole in an emergency. If there's a check on this square, then the king can run away. So Simon thinking about, okay, we're into the chess. Where's that queen gone? Oh, he's blocked it. He's blocked it he's blocked the check, so he's actually played a defensive move.
Yeah, so if we see Gauri's stack is in red, they cannot cover the big blind. So that's what happens when you do see the stacks going red.
Yeah, see the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, of the board. How the clock? They did an awful lot of thinking, the guys there. Simon behind on the clock. He's burned up half his time on betting and placement. But the first move is so important. Gauri having a think here. That's a very sensible move. The queen moves down and attacks the rook and attacks the pawn. Now Simon can defend both with this move if he wants to. So there he goes. So that's defending the pawn diagonally, defending the rook vertically, and there's a sneaky trap here. If queen takes pawn, queen takes queen, rook takes queen, and then Simon's rook at the end of that combination would go down in a straight line, not my squiggly one, and win the rook in the corner. But that's not going to happen because Gauri's put his king to d. But that's asking for trouble. That's asking for a check. And there it goes, bishop d4 check. That was not a good move. All that did was expose the white king to more attack. But how Simon actually takes advantage of that, I'm not sure. What he might even do, perhaps, is play pawn forward, offering an exchange of queens. That would be unusual to do when you're down material, but Simon's actually only down 1 point. So in chess, a rook is worth 5, a bishop 3, and a pawn 1. So Simon's down 2 pawns. Okay, so it's maybe doesn't want to go there. Okay, rook c5, trying to get a bit more control, defending that pawn. Queen check. Well, that can be covered quite easily by rook back, but Simon's running his king. He's running his king. This is very provocative play. I think he's trying to make Gauri use up some time. Okay, rook c7, but now queen takes pawn check is possible. Queen takes, but Gauri doesn't go for that. He's gone for the attack instead, trying to get his queen maybe to that square to give check to the king, maybe on the diagonal. Simon's saying, I don't care, go for it. I'm just going to make a queen with this pawn. If a pawn gets to the end of the board in chess, it becomes a new queen. In the meantime, this rook, which hasn't been doing anything, comes into the game and threatens to destroy Simon's position, but he covers it with the bishop diagonally. The bishop there covering the e7 pawn diagonally, cancelling the threat. Rook takes b4, queen c1 check. This is very difficult for Simon. All of Gauri's pieces are in the game. Simon can't really do very much. Queen g4 check. Oh, we could be in serious trouble here on the back rank. His king is totally exposed. It would be a miracle if Simon's king survived all this attention from Gauri Shankar's pieces, but it's 13 seconds, plays 21. Gauri Shankar ahead on the clock. Bishop has to block. It's desperate stuff from Simon. Queen check, but king d7 survives just about. He's bringing another pawn into the fence. Rook takes e5. Goodness me.
He's going. He is in
Queen e3
real
check.
trouble.
I'm just not sure. I think Gauri might have slightly blown it. He should be able to win. He should be able to win. He's running out of time. 7 seconds. Simon's out. Simon's out of time. Well, that was impressive because Simon, as a strong grandmaster, should be able to handle the clock better than his opponent is a FIDE Master. But I'm sure Gauri Shankar plays lots of blitz. He looked very good there. He looked very good there. He just kept setting Simon problems. When your king is exposed like that, it's so hard to defend in chess, particularly when there are just seconds left, because you know that what the tiniest mistake will lead to disaster. And we saw Simon in terrible time trouble there, needing to use that extra second or half second every move to make sure he didn't lose immediately, and he ran out of time.
You could see the sigh of relief. Gauri Shankar knows he got away with one there. He lost.
He did.
The first part, he was cut in half, and then he came back and went win-win. And we do see, again, with chips left, a little different than poker, but I get the rules been cleaned up. I like it much better. But you did see, so in poker, for example, if you were playing and you had 2,000 chips left, you would be able to at least put the 2K in, even if the big blind was more. So there's still a little difference in that respect. But I do like the red, the alert. So there's never going to be a time where you just fold and be, like what happened to Miss Botez. You would never fold knowing that you're going to be all in. Now, you could have less chips than what covers the blind, and in this scenario, you are not able to continue. So there is still that difference than let's call it a poker tournament, right? So there's still not the exact same rules, but a big change, and I think this could be something to be looked at in the future as well. But I feel like I'm happy. As from a poker mind, I feel like this is a change that satisfies what Bill was talking about, what Ms. Botez was, and we referenced earlier. So, I just think that's one other thing that could maybe be looked at is if you have chips left, technically, should you be able to put those chips in and play again? So even if the blinds were up to 6K and you only have 2,000, technically, if you were able to play and you double and then you double, you're not out until you have no chips. So
right.
I don't know, something to think about. But
I think what the game's inventors were worried about was getting a situation where there are too many draws. I mean, one of the things we like about this game is so fast and furious. So I think that actually maybe what you should do is just allow them to have, if you're out of chips and it's a draw, or if you've only got 2,000 chips and you're below the big blind and it's a draw, say you can have 2 draws and then third time, 3 strikes, you're out. You've got to win to get back into the game. Otherwise, you lose the clash. Well, okay, it's Gauri Shankar is 1 up. We're waiting for them to start again. I have to say, I thought that Gauri played some pretty good chess. Maybe only one false move in that whole clash. I was pretty impressed, and he certainly handled the clock well.
Yeah, that was nice.
I didn't actually see Simon running out of time. I was like him, actually, Jeff. I think this is the chess player in both of us that I was so focused on whether he could avoid being checkmated, I actually didn't notice his clock running down until you told me, which kind of makes the point amplifies the point I was making, that when your king is in check, when your king is in danger, when it's being attacked by a queen and 2 rooks, it's it requires all of your attention to save it. So a reminder that this is the best of 5. Next week's Choker Challenge Cup final between Hikaru Nakamura and Eric Rosen will be the best of 7. Oh, well, that's a good start for Simon anyway. Queen and pawn. So that would be pretty normal, Jeff, to raise something like that, about 30% of the pot.
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting. Again, it's not super deep. So when you talk about bet sizings, when you each start with 10,000, there's 20K. It's sort of a turbo, right? It's fast. It's meant for action. If you were playing something that Choker could expand or decide, or depending on how long players want to play and what you want to do, you could make it, let's say you had 20 or 30,000 starting chips. It would make it a lot different. And the more chips you have, and based on the big blind, right? So really, if the blinds are start at 500, 1K, you only have 10 big blinds. That's relatively short. Now, if you were playing like a tournament and you had a much deeper stack, let's say you had 40 or 50,000, there's a lot more creativity in terms of bet sizing. Do you bet small? Do you fold? Do you bet, do you bluff? And that's true in poker. If when you get a certain amount of blinds, 6, 7, 8, 10 blinds, you're basically all in or fold. So when, in this format, it is geared, there's less, I would say, creativity or maneuvering with the bets just because you're so short, right? Like it's not a deep structure. If you had 100,000, you could bet a lot different, and it would be, a more intricate part of the game. Now, still here, there's creativity. Do you check? Do you let your opponent bluff? Do you bet min raise? Do you bet half the pot, a third of the pot? So there still is, there's still ability to do that. But after you see as the blinds go up, if you only have 6,000, 7,000, the blinds are 2, 3K. It's called SPR, like your stack to pot ratio. It's low, so you're basically incentivized to go with what you have because there's not a lot of room. It's really on the first game within the clash, first 1 or 2 games where you can be more creative with how you're betting and whatnot, and then you kind of notice after the third, it's basically you're all in.
You're all in, yeah.
So but that's fine. I mean, that's, again, there's different ways you can tweak that and set that, and for the purposes of viewing and for about an hour match or so, this seems like a really good structure. But if you want to make it a deeper tournament, or you could definitely play around and give more chips.
I think that's one of the great things about Choker, actually, is that we can infinitely vary it. I mean, not only can we vary the number of chips, we can vary the size of the blinds. We can also vary the configuration of pieces if we want. All kinds of things that we can do to tinker with it, which means that a bot will never really be able to crack Choker because it can be changed all the time. During the betting phase, by the way, I saw Gauri got 2 demotions. He got 4 rooks, 2 of which appear to have been downgraded to pawns. So he's actually well down on pieces here. It's not a huge disparity, but it's queen and knight against 2 rooks, and once again, it's a queen, and the queen can cause havoc. The other thing we have, which is an interesting thing, it's sort of very much a chess theme. We have what we call in chess opposite-coloured bishops. So if you notice, Simon's bishop is operating on dark squares, on green squares, and Gauri's bishop is operating on white squares, so actually they can't touch each other. And what it means is that Gauri has absolutely no defense on the black squares. If Simon was to attack him on the black squares, for example, get his queen somewhere like here and try and give checkmate on this f2 square, there'd be very little that Gauri could do about that because he doesn't have a dark squared bishop. He's got a white squared bishop, which is physically incapable of protecting this square that I've just highlighted. So it's kind of a different phase. Oh, that's a rather good move. I wonder if Simon saw that coming, because the rook is attacking the queen. If the queen goes there, bishop check. It's another discovered check that Gauri can do that gives Simon a big problem. Okay, Simon's sacrificed his queen for rook and bishop, so that's 9 points for 8. But what he's got, his trump card, is this huge pawn. He's going to try and queen this pawn. He's going to try and make that pawn into an extra queen and win the game with it. Gauri, for his part, has got to get this g pawn up the board. That's his free pawn. He's not advancing it. He needs to get it down the board as fast as he possibly can. He's doing it now. He's worked it out. Now Simon needs to push his pawn. So who's going to make a queen first? They're both actually on what we call the 5th rank, although it's...
Is Gauri playing? Gauri's playing on his phone?
It looks like it. Yep, he is playing on his phone.
Interesting. Is that even a phone? That thing looks like a Nintendo, like a block.
Yeah.
Like
Look, maybe it's a small tablet or something,
Yeah.
Jeff. I'm not sure. Right. Well, this is interesting. This pawn is well on its way down the board. Simon actually has a little problem trying to figure out how he's going to stop it. He's going to stop it with the knight. The knight is going to go to that square to control that square. Or it might even drop back to that square. No, he's gone to the more active square. Makes sense. This is not easy. I really like Gauri's play there. And he's hassling the knight. It's a real problem for Simon, this, because his bishop can't get to d4 to control that square, because Gauri sacrificed a pawn on e5. Here it comes. Here it comes. They're both going to make a queen. It's touchdown. It's touchdown for both sides. Simon has a queen and a bishop against a queen. He's a piece up. In theory, he should win. Times are level, 52 seconds each, and now it's just going to be check, 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 check. Gauri's going to win that pawn, though. That will make it very, very hard for Simon to win. But it should still be possible if he plays it really, really well. It'll be very difficult for Gauri to defend this position because he's a piece down. He's preferring to give a check. That's interesting. Now, that's interesting, because if king takes pawn, I think Gauri wants to play queen. Oh, he's blundered his queen again. That's why I've scribbled all over the board. I was so shocked. Simon has just blundered his queen. The game is over, effectively. 32 seconds against 34. Simon will try and create a fortress, but this will be easy for a player of Gauri's ability. Let me remove that squiggle from the screen. You slowly make progress. You slowly squeeze them until they can't defend, because it's 9 points a queen against bishop and pawn, which is 4 points. Queen against bishop is easy. It just needs the king and the bishop to coordinate, and soon the bishop and the king have to be separated. There's a simple skewer, giving check, winning the bishop, and now it's very easy to checkmate with king and queen. You should be able to do it in less than 10 seconds from any position, and Gauri has 17 seconds. King is trapped on the back rank. The king is the prisoner. He cannot escape. The enemy king comes in to deliver checkmate, and there it is. Simon has blundered badly twice here, Jeff. This is not what we're looking for.
He's making no secret. Maybe this is he's gearing up for a long weekend. He's just having a little fun and letting it ride. I mean, he's I know he's a world-class player. You would not expect those type of moves. Not that I can speak. I mean, I can't say I would. Obviously, but just from your perspective, that's very uncharacteristic. You would just not expect that. Is that true?
Right.
I mean, it happens on speed chess, right? I guess part of the time there's going to be some mistakes, but.
And in high-stakes poker, do people drink at all while they're playing?
Yeah, sure. There's sometimes. I mean, generally in high-stakes tournaments, you don't see that, but in high-stakes cash games or in cash games more in particular, because that's one of those things where if you do happen to have a little too much, or you decide to pick up or take a break or whatever, you can. Whereas a tournament, you're locked in for 10, 12 hours in a day. You start at noon, finish around midnight. You get a couple breaks or whatnot, but it's not like if you all of a sudden have too many or you don't feel good, you just leave. You have to stay. So in a cash game, though, if you're buzzing, if you're having a good time, and then if you decide you want to leave, you can leave at any point. So bit of a difference there.
So Simon's got a queen and Gauri doesn't have a queen. So Should be pretty good for Simon, this, but of course he's had this problem that he keeps blundering his queen. So no use having an extra queen if you give it away. Oh, he should be able to win this. He should be able to win this. So 180 seconds to place the pieces and win the game. Now that looks like Simon got a promotion there because of a third pawn. So there goes. That's a rook. Very, very, very big bonus here. Gauri's a bit fed up with that. You can see the rook's already putting him under pressure. So he's popped that knight in so that it goes in an L shape to cover the square that rook would penetrate on. And Simon pulls up another rook. Says, okay, you stopped me in one way, but I'm going to get you down the other side. That is a problem. Simon could also castle here, by the way, Jeff. He's put his pieces in that Eric Rosen favourite configuration, so he could play king there and bring the rook over, or do it the other way on the left-hand side, on the queen side. There goes a queen. Yeah, Gauri knows he's completely outgunned here. This is going to be a massacre. I'm going to say, Jeff, that if Simon doesn't win this one, he should give up.
Really?
Yeah. No, this is.
So Gauri Shankar, if I pronounce it wrong, Gauri. It's a cool name, by the way. I've never heard a name like that. How well does his game stack up in the chess world? Is he? Well,
he's got a FIDE. I checked him just before we came on air. He's got a FIDE rating of 2347, which would mean that he is a very strong player. I mean, he would be well capable of playing in international tournaments and holding his own in quite exalted company. And he's also a FIDE master. So Simon is a Grandmaster. It's the highest level in chess. I'm an International Master, which is the second level in chess. And Gauri is a FIDE Master, which is the third level in chess. So he's a strong player. He's an accomplished player. He's about to lose his... Oh, it's checkmate. Simon's deliberately not checkmating him. Why is he deliberately not checkmating him? He's just prolonging the game. No, there we go. Checkmate. He's seen it. Chokemate. That's over. That was very one-sided. It's very unusual in Choker. We haven't seen too many completely one-sided hands, but you get them occasionally.
Yeah, so we got relatively even here again. Now, it's always nice to cover your opponent because that means that you are not at risk. As we saw last game, though, the blinds were so close, it was an all-in even when the player was covering. 2,000 wasn't enough for the big blind, but in this case, we do see that if GingerGM were to win, or I'm sorry, if he were to lose, I believe he still would have chips, but maybe we'll see actually the red zone initiate here depending what the pot size is. If it gets all in, it may not be able to cover the big blind. But again, we see that FM beats GM, so weaker beats stronger, and that is one of the things that Choker brings you. The opportunity, one of the allures of poker, you sit down with the best top-ranked player in the world or professional, and you're an amateur, you could win. This also is what is so interesting and what basically is being brought to chess is the Choker that not necessarily that, the number one player in the world playing a relatively beginner, but someone who has chess aptitude, they could win. And that is nice because that's refreshing. That's what people, I think that's really a big thing. And that makes Choker
it's leveling the playing field
and exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. But, we had a pretty good example there. FIDE Master beating a Grandmaster twice so far. Now, in terms of these hands, it looks to me like Simon is slightly ahead. Both placed a bishop and a knight. Simon's got a rook and a knight to come. So that means he's going to be a knight for a pawn ahead. That should be convertible. He should be able to convert that to a win. Of course, both players have to be careful. The other side could have a queen, so that's why they're being fairly cautious about their piece placements at the moment. Simon's going to bring his rook on at the end, and so is Gauri.
Yes,
he fancies that. He fancies that.
So he is in red. You see that?
He's red now.
In red.
Okay.
And Ginger could cover, though. Ginger could actually put up the big blind, so he is not all in on the clash, but it's essentially hard to come back from that deficit.
Mm-hmm. Okay, there's the rook coming on for Gauri. That rook threatening to come down and deliver a nasty check. I think Simon's covered that, has he? Yep, Simon's covered that straight away. Also defending the knight from possible capture. This is not going to be easy to convert. It should be possible, so it's a fairly simple situation. Simon has an extra knight for a pawn. What he'll try and do is he'll try and exchange as many pieces as he possibly can so that his advantage in material as a percentage increases. But the first phase It's just to get the pieces out. There was a nasty knight fork was threatened there, which Gauri's covered. The rook has activated itself, coming down here to give check. Gauri covers that too. Simon could swap now if he wants. He could play rook h2, could swing it all the way down and exchange. That might help the conversion process, but instead he's gone aggressive. He's gone aggressive. He's looking to cause mayhem around the back. He's not interested in playing the quiet game. He's playing super aggressive. Gauri setting up a nice little triangle of pawns, which is pretty solid, and also takes away this square and this square from Simon's pieces, which is clever. So Simon's having to maneuver. That knight's pretty passive. It's not doing very much. 91 seconds, but Ginger's way ahead on the clock. 120 seconds to 90. Okay, the knight's hopped in to g5, wants to hop into e4. Knight comes to d5, hitting the bishop. That's got to be dealt with. Bishop covers and defends the pawn. King there, very good move. So this is a very solid constellation. Look at this. This is all this stuff here. It's 3 pawns, a knight and a king. It's very solid, saying, come and get me. I'm solid. I'm defending. Okay, check. Maybe even block that with the rook. I don't know. Or just king c2 is also possible. Yeah. Rook a1 attacks the bishop. King b2 covers the bishop. Rook comes back to attack the pawn. And Gauri thinks, well, why not get my pawn nearer to a queen? If Simon's not going to do anything, so Simon reacts by attacking the rook with his knight. Rook gets behind that pawn, so that pawn is threatening to power through and make a queen. Simon needs to deal with this. I think he should have swapped the rooks, as I proposed earlier. That would have been better, I think, because currently this knight is a very dominating piece. That pawn is threatening to come down the board. It's going to hassle the bishop when it advances. There it goes, threatening the bishop. Bishop has to retreat to a passive square. Okay, so Gauri's got a slight issue with this. This is a threat. Knight takes pawn, but he might be able to ignore it. He might be able to just carry on charging down the board, and he does. So Simon takes the pawn with check. Attacking the rook. Knight takes knight, rook takes knight. Now pawn forward should win a piece. Simon's being outplayed in the chess phase again, Jeff. The material disadvantage has decreased. It's now just a pawn. Gauri's just down a pawn. Simon now needs to advance this pawn. That's his extra one. He's taking a moment to kick the rook. But now it's time to get that pawn going. It's got what we call a passed pawn. Okay, he's choosing instead to attack Gauri's pawn. Okay, knight comes in. And knight's going to come to a very nice square d6 where it's very solid. This is good chess. This is good chess for Gauri. He's not giving Simon any respite at all. Knight c3. And now knight takes d5 is possible. Defending the e7 pawn. And after bishop takes knight, king takes bishop. That is actually a technically one endgame. So Gauri's ignoring that. Okay, so Gauri didn't swap because that would have been what we call a technical loss. Okay, so Simon's managed to win a second pawn. That was good chess. Simon's showing Grandmaster technique this time. That's it. Now the pawns are going to come down the board. And Gauri's out of time anyway. Simon had 35 seconds spare. Simon may be finding his chess form there, Jeff. That looked better.
Yes, that's more what we expect. And look at this, 1-1. So
1-1.
It's got the legs. It could go the distance. We haven't seen a lot of 3-1s. I think we've basically seen sweeps or 3-2s. I don't know if we have any 3-1s.
Did we have one last week? Maybe did Simon beat Fiona 3-1?
That's true. I think we've had one.
But it was so close, wasn't it? Because it was nearly 3-2. Fiona actually had Simon completely on the ropes in the fourth clash and missed an opportunity. We thought it was going to go. 2-2.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was
I think the Miss Botez comeback. I think she was down 2-0, it was 2-2, and then she basically blinded out. That was a bizarre ending to an amazing match. That was really exciting. And
Matt Staples was down 2-0, wasn't he?
Yes, Bill came back from 2-0 and won 3-2.
Yep.
And then we got next week Carl versus Eric. That is going to be quite a treat. That'll be sort of the finale, right? That's for all the marbles. And,
for the honor of the Choker Challenge Cup, of course, the Choker it's a free to play game. available on the Apple Store or Google Play. I wish I could see it's Western. I think I should look that up. I wonder what that is. Whatever Simon's drinking seemed to help this time.
Yeah, he does seem like to have a good time. Pretty relaxed, comes in, usually having a drink, little wine, little beer or something, just keep it light and fun. And he's a couple mistakes, though. It's not a great advertisement to drink and play, with today at least.
Yeah, I think it's cider, by the way.
Okay, there we go.
Because there's a place in the west of England called Weston-super-Mare, which I think is in the county of Somerset, which is pretty famous for cider. So maybe Simon's drinking cider.
All right.
So 1-1 into the third. Simon and I both play a chess tournament called Bunratty, which is Bunratty is a picturesque a small town in the west of Ireland, and the joy of it is that there are no rating points at stake at all. So people just come to drink and play chess, and there it's almost considered bad form not to have a drink when you're playing in Bunratty.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's important to know about customs and just sort of respect of different games and cultures. So there's oftentimes what might be considered one thing in one place is customary in another. So it's important to remember that.
Indeed.
That you gotta know what's going on. You don't want to do something offensive.
I'd be real wary of drinking while I was playing poker, though, Jeff. I think just because I don't know, to a certain extent, like when I play chess, if I've had a drink, that afternoon, it can help me relax a little bit, but I'd be worried it might affect my objectivity if I play poker. I don't know. It feels to me like it's just extremely risky to be drinking while you're playing poker. I suppose it just depends how resistant you are to it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I personally don't like to. I mean, if I play a cash game or a home game, I don't mind having a drink or two and having fun. You definitely don't want to overdo it. Sometimes it can loosen you up a little just to have the right mix, but you just don't want to go overboard or put yourself in a bad situation where you're not at your best. Of course, just like anything, right? You wouldn't want to do anything that takes a lot of concentration, thinking, and not be at your best. But I have heard arguments, and there's some people, whether it's smoking marijuana or doing, drinking, that they say it's just kind of part of what they like or what that makes them feel comfortable. Again, teach his own. It's not recommended. I wouldn't do it, but some people do enjoy it, and it's part of their ritual or routine. So it's hard to say, right? It's hard to know what works for everyone being different, but
indeed,
I wouldn't recommend it.
Well, Simon's down here. I thought that was quite an optimistic call when he didn't have a queen. It looks like, if I look at Gauri's hand, I think that's 17 points, 9 for the queen, 2 pawns at 1 each and 2 knights at 3 each. Looks like 17. Simon, 2 rooks is 10, bishop plus is 15, and of course it's a queen, and it's a queen and 2 knights that Gauri Shankar's got. Gosh, that will be a formidable attacking force if they get going. A queen and 2 knights. Goodness me. Simon's going to have his work cut out here. Simon's put this sort of pawn, this strange outlying pawn. Gauri likes that setup, those 2 pawns and the extra cover on the G file. He's done that pretty consistently. Simon lines up his bishop, threatening to take that pawn straight away. So Gauri's defending it. Simon's rook on the open file, threatening to cause trouble. Gauri will probably cover that with his next piece placement. There he goes. Knight defending in an L shape, that B8 square. There goes Simon's second rook. Ooh, the rooks are good together, but that leaves the whole flank down here completely wide open. And I've got a funny feeling that's where Gauri's going to put his queen. Yep, there it is. Although it's on the queen side, it's threatening to penetrate in on G3. That is not nice at all. Okay, so we got rook check from Simon. Simon's going to have to find a way to coordinate his pieces. He might move his bishop to E4 and see if he can play rook B7, or he might go defensive and put it on d3. He's gone defensive, just defending e2, defending c4, defending b1. So that bishop's very much in defense mode. He's got 13 seconds on the clock. Here comes knight coming to e6, threatening maybe to come to f4, destroy the bishop. That would be the ideal solution for Gauri Shankar. If he could swap a bishop for a knight and then have knight and queen against 2 rooks, Simon will not last very long. That's already a threat. I think he's going to go down. 114 seconds. This should be easy. There's nothing surrounding this king other than just it's wide open to the queen and knight. They're all right attack. Queen check. And now the knight's going to follow up probably. There we go. Threatening queen takes f3 check and carnage. Absolute carnage. The rooks are parked. The rooks are just parked in the top left-hand corner of your board, ladies and gentlemen. That is absolutely hopeless. Now queen f2 picks one up. It's a hanging rook. As we say, loose pieces drop off.
Saw a fist pump there.
Yeah, because he's just nailed a second rook. And now it's just very easy. Just make a second queen, deliver checkmate. It'll be all over in about... I'll be amazed if he had less than 75 seconds by the time he finishes this. This is trivial. Game over. Two queens.
This is just a player preference at this point to resign or sweat it out a bit.
Yes, I mean, I quite like people playing it out because for non-chess players or players who are inexperienced, it's just good to see how checkmate is delivered. And there it is. Choke mate on the board.
Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah, that was a bit optimistic by Simon. We saw that, didn't we, in his first round match in the Choker Challenge Cup against Eric Rosen. He was betting a bit too aggressively, and maybe he was emboldened by his win in the second clash that levelled the score. So big disparity in chips now.
Yeah, so they're playing out for the audience. I mean, that's again, this isn't like a sort. Some people may believe, or what, just if you're not familiar, it's like, oh, it's like a kind of wasting time, or it's poor sport. But to your point, it's exactly. It's like GingerGM knows he lost. He's just sort of giving the viewers the ability to enjoy, to see how to close, because it is interesting. Even myself, not a lot of chess experience. It's like it's kind of cool to see how they deliver. And someone like Gauri or Shankar, who's players of this caliber, are going to know how to do it effectively and quickly, whereas someone who's not as good may not get there, work out the same way of doing it. And it's nice to see.
Chef Simon got a third. He got a demotion, then he got a promotion.
Oh wow! Yeah, okay.
Interesting. So Gauri Shankar's got that's a promotion. He's had 2 promotions as well. So I think he's got a lot of firepower there. That's queen and 2 rooks. Plays, I think, 2 queens. Oh, this is going to be mad. This is going to be absolutely mad. There is so much firepower on the board this time. You wouldn't know at the moment because all they've done is chuck a couple of pawns on, but there is some serious chess firepower about to land on the board. So Simon's got 2 queens to come on, as well as an extra pawn. I think he needs to put that pawn on a good defensive square. No, I would put it nearer your king, Simon. You need it nearer your king. Don't chuck it over there. It doesn't do anything. Okay, Simon's chosen to block a file. Just expending that pawn, it can be captured by the rook at any time, but just literally using it as a shot stopper, that being the shot that he wanted to stop, rook down to the bottom. Oh, that's another nasty idea. Simon will need to cover that. Queen a7, sort of looking into the black position. This is weird. We've never had this configuration before. Queen and 2 rooks against 2 queens. This is mad. Queen threatening to come into g6. Oh, Simon needs to put his queen somewhere where it can defend. He really needs to defend. He needs to play a defensive move, but he's really vulnerable all over the board. I don't like this placement. I didn't like that queen. It was just on the edge of the board, not influential enough, not near the king. He's got a problem here. There's a threat down there and there's a threat down there. This is not nice. You can see him burning time trying to deal with these multifarious threats. Queen there's a threat as well. Oof. I'm just wondering if this position may be lost before it started. He might have to go... Okay, Queen G8, but that looks very grim. I mean, it allows Gauri an immediate queen check in here. That doesn't look nice at all. Very difficult. Gauri should keep his queen. His queen will coordinate with his two rooks. If he swaps queens, I think he'll find it hard. If he can keep the queens on somehow, I think he's looking good. Maybe rook h7 is a move here? Although that would allow queen g1 check. That was the one very, very good point about Simon's queen. It is inhibiting Gauri's rook there from moving and losing control of that square I just highlighted. Very difficult first move, this. Incredibly difficult. Queen there was essential. It covered the queen check. It covered the rook penetration there. But very, very difficult. I wonder if Gauri should maybe just calmly bring this rook into the game and try and make some threats. Or could he just play this very calm move, king here, covering the queen check, then get his rook in there? We'll see. Well, he's opted for something different. He's opted for rook d1, which is giving him control of this square next to Simon's king. Both sides burning a lot of time. This is one of the slowest games we've had so far in terms of thinking.
Yeah. Clock's still healthy for both players, but goes quick. You know, you get that once you get down in that zone, that 20 spot comes fast, and it becomes a race against time. So we're seeing some deliberation here.
I'm wondering maybe queen there, threatening the pawn on g3 might be a move, but he's gone queen b7. So queen b7 essentially covering the c8 square so that this queen couldn't go down there and cause mayhem. But of course the queen is no longer threatening g1. Okay, check, king runs out the way. And Gauri just picks off a pawn. He says, okay, it's queen against two rooks. Two rooks are worth 10. Queen is worth 9. But in Choker, because the board's so wide open, I kind of feel the queen is a match for the two rooks most of the time. Just because the board is so wide open. And also, these rooks are not connected. Regular viewers of Choker on Thursday might remember that I talk about rooks being worth 5, but when they're coordinated, they're actually worth 11 together. So that's why this clever king move connects those rooks. Simon doesn't actually have anything to target. Okay, he was in check there. He's got to be careful, Simon. There's a rook h7. Gosh, did Gauri miss a win there? I think he missed a win. I think he missed rook h7 check rook sacrifice winning. That would have been an interesting combination. King takes rook and queen would come to f7 and then rook would come to h1. I think that would have been the finish. Unless he's allowed it again. What am I missing here? Rook check. King takes rook. Queen in. Followed by rook there. That looks like annihilation to me. Just wondering if Simon's seen it. Oh, well, it's not happened. But instead, a similarly brutal threat of mate in 1, which Simon had to block. But he's exposed himself on the diagonal. Just saves himself. Just. The thing about this is, though, that Simon's king is so much more vulnerable than his opponents. I mean, he's trying to line up on this square. Oh, what a great move. Now they're worth 11. They're not worth 11. They're worth 11,000. Look at that. Threatening rook check. Penetrating there, hitting the queen. That is very nasty. Queen check. Oh, look at this piece coordination. Rook check. Rook check. And the queen is threatening to come down. And Simon ran out of time. Once again, the pressure of having to defend the king against incessant checks and attacks by heavy pieces. By heavy pieces, we mean queen and rooks, was just too much for Simon. And he lost control of the clock. 2-1.
Wow. Clock. I mean, we're seeing some really nice play from Gauri Shankar. He's rising the occasion. We've seen GingerGM 3 times now, right? So it's in the Choker Cup. We saw him in the duel. So he lost the Choker Cup, won in his first duel. He's in his second duel. So he's got some experience in this stage and understands the game. And Gauri Shankar, first time seeing him, he's stepped up. He's drinking some tea. It looks like he's relaxed. He's excited, and he's a different cocktail. choice than our friend Ginger. But, it's 2-1, and he's got now a must-win for Ginger, or else Gauri is going to continue and take down this duel. So he's got less pressure. It's up to GingerGM. He's got to win now.
Well, tea is definitely doing better than cider. There could be a moral in there somewhere. Maybe it's just time to crack open another bottle.
Yeah, exactly. We see it looks like tea. You never know, right? I mean, he's got
Fair
the
point.
It looks that case, but either way, we got a big fourth clash coming up here and a must win. So we might either go to 5 or we'll see a 3-1 finish. But we're going to come into it fresh start, 10,000 chips each, and the blind's going to reset there to 500, 1,000. Each player 10,000. And when you get all the chips, you do win the clash. So you could actually lose a game, but then still win the clash. And that's what we see the score 2-1 on the bottom of the screen there, where you need to get to 3 to end the match. So 2-1, Gauri Shankar in the driver's seat at the moment.
I think Gary's also streaming on Twitch. I think he has around 10,000 followers. So hopefully they've all been introduced to the game of Choker. We hope to see them next week watching the final between Hikaru Nakamura and Eric Rosen, or downloading the app from the Apple Store or Google Play. So I wonder how Simon bets here. I wonder what his strategy will be. Whether he might just be super aggressive and just go all in on the first opportunity. Revert to how he was when he played Eric Rosen in the first round of the Choker Challenge Cup. Oh. Okay, we're just waiting for the app to start. That was quite interesting there. That both sides had a queen, but Gauri had a queen and 2 rooks against 2 queens. And what was key there was the way that Gauri managed to safeguard his king. He did it extremely well. He had those 3 pawns. He kept his rook in vicinity to his king, and Simon was never really able to land a glove on him, actually, on the whole game, despite having 2 queens, which is about the most effective and potent attacking force you can have in chess. Okay, betting begins.
Do you have your answer on the pawns yet? Have you formulated a firm belief?
Yeah, I think that it's definitely worth holding. I mean, you've got something like a 36% chance that any card will be a pawn. So, all right, if you've had 2 pawns already, that is slightly reduced. But given that you've got 3 more cards to come, I mean, your chances of getting a promotion are very good statistically. So, I feel it's kind of a hold, unless perhaps you sense the opponent's got something very good. Okay, Simon won a small pot there. Oh, Gauri straight in with a queen. He's bet. That's a cautious play from Simon. Yeah, I think we are agreed, Jeff, that minor piece and pawn, that being bishop and pawn, or knight and pawn, is a pretty lousy hand. I mean, I think that is a fold most of the time. And that's what Simon had. That's like 4 points, and par would be 6.4 points. So the average Choker hand would be 16 chess piece points.
Yeah, it's important, having a good hand to continue with. You don't want to, especially early on, like we said, the not a big deal to fold a hand once you get dealt at the beginning. Once you start calling a few bets and then you don't even make it to the chess phase and fold, that's a bit costly. Like here, not a big deal. You lose a chip or 2, it's okay. 11.5 to 8.5K, no harm, no foul. But if you were to lose half your stack or 2/3 of your stack, fold, that's a big problem. So that's also important to have a bit of basic understanding on that.
Okay, it's gone red. Oh. Oh, Gary's greatly relieved there. Simon folding on pawn, I think. And he had nothing. Gary had nothing. He had a lousy hand. He had one mana piece to pawn. And he was fortunate Simon folded.
Yeah. Does have the lead.
Okay, equal points. Six chess points to chess points 5+1.
Yeah, he did bluff him. That was an actual bluff. We see a bluff got through, and we are again on the line. It's on the line for GingerGM. He is in a must-win clash. He loses this, it is all done. And there's an all-in. So now it's either a call or fold, and he's got 2 pawns, and he does run it. Goes for it. 2 pawns. It doesn't look like a
Simon didn't get a queen.
No one's got a queen, though.
Simon doesn't even have a rook. He's just got minor pieces. So Simon, I think Gary's going to.
Yeah, I mean this is both players in the red zone, so this is actually all in. So again, 18K in the pot, 2,000 behind, but this is all in. Even if GM Ginger were to win the 2,000 chips, not enough to cover the big blind. So we are seeing an all in here situation. This is one of those things that it's all or nothing. Wow, this is all right. So we got, we got some things. Players taking their time. It's still a healthy clock. They know pressure on GingerGM. He is going to have to deliver here. He's got to win, and he's. Now this is important to see how do players play when they're behind. Just like any game, any sports, any kind of competition, pressure arises when you are in must-win situations. So here it is. He knows that this is win or go home, and at the same time, it's also pressure when you want to close. So you know that it's an emotional, it's a mental struggle. You got to close when you have the opportunity. You don't want to have a lead and then go 2-2, and it can just flip in a second. So again, very, very exciting when it becomes must-win situations to see how players deal with it. And GingerGM, a more experienced chess player, let's see if he can deal with the situation given. And we're going to go into the chess phase right now. I think we might get Malcolm back. I don't know if we have him at the moment. I think he's just rebooting at a technical difficulty. I'm not a chess guru, so anyone at home watching, I'm not gonna be able to tell you if these are great moves or not, or if there's blunders particularly, but we do know it's 2-1. We do know that GingerGM is in a must-win to keep the match going, and we do see that both players are in, I believe, red. It's this is a must-win situation for both players in this particular class. In the clash. So huge time advantage for GingerGM. I mean, look at this. We got 125 to 66, about 2-1 advantage, and that could come into play later. And we see with white with the advantage too. It appears he's got a few more. He's got a bit of a point lead, some key pieces. So white's looking really good, looking healthy. I'm again not a chess expert, but my money would go on white. Looks like they got more time, more quality pieces, and it is looks like a fortuitous situation. And we see the clock, 40 seconds versus 98. This is a huge difference. And we're going to see a little bit of an attack going here. See Gauri throw in, trying to formulate some sort of plan here, but it does appear that white has just got too much going on. And 27 seconds now. Malcolm, we need you. Are you here? We got.
I'm back.
All right, we got chess happening. We got real chess. We need you to dive in and tell me. 18 seconds, that's what jumps out as me. The time is going to be a huge issue. I mean, even just kind of moving.
This is a race against the clock. Yeah, this is a race against the clock. It's going to be impossible to finish this, or very hard at least for Gauri to. Yeah, he's so behind on the clock. Oh, but they've repeated moves. Simon shouldn't have done that. He was 70 seconds against 13 seconds ahead. It was very difficult for either side to win, but Simon could have just run his clock down. Instead, he allowed the position to be repeated 3 times. No wonder Gauri's laughing. If the exact position is repeated in chess with the same person to move, then the game is a draw. If it's repeated 3 times, we got away with another one there, I'd say.
Well, interesting. I want to ask you about that because that's something I've seen happen a few times now. It's kind of uncommon, but when you say GingerGM should not have done that, is that a blunder by him, or is that just like there's no way? But like, how can he know that that's been that board twice? Is that something that you're supposed to remember? Or how would you know that?
It's one of the hardest things to remember in chess when you're playing speed chess. So in a normal game of chess, say a slow game of chess, what we call classical chess, where you've got, say the game might go on for 5 or even 7 hours, and you've got on average about 3 minutes for every move, you actually write your moves down on a piece of paper. You record the game. And when you do that, by looking at the chess notation on the piece of paper on which you were writing, you can actually tell where the pieces were at each point in the game and sort of mentally reconstruct it.
Complicated. You can mentally every move you have to reconstruct.
You can mentally reconstruct it, but that's when you've got all the time in the world. When you've just got a few seconds, it's almost impossible to remember whether you've had that position twice before, and therefore you don't want to repeat it a third time. Better do something different. So it's very, very hard.
Very, very complicated in terms of is that something where the best in the world they're even just that much in a speed chess you could sort of a photographic memory you literally there's some people who might have been able to work that out that was not where to go.
Yes. I mean, there are some people who are incredibly good at it, but at the same time it's really, really hard to do. And you sometimes get actually even in slow chess, people blunder in winning positions and accidentally allow the position to be repeated 3 times, and that ruins their attempt to win the game. So it actually happens even when they've got, an hour to think, never mind a few seconds. But it's the greats can actually remember that sort of stuff, but not all the time.
Right.
Now, looking at this, Simon seems to be somewhat outgunned here. Again, he seems to be down on pieces because Gauri's got 2 bishops against a knight. Oh, that's a huge advantage in firepower. The bishops work really well, as we mentioned in a previous hand. One bishop works on white squares, and one bishop works on black squares, which means between the 2 of them, they've got the whole board covered. So this is really unpleasant for Simon. Those bishops have a huge amount of control. I wouldn't have thought Simon would be able to survive this easily. So the 2 rooks for both sides cancel each other out, but it's 2 bishops against a knight and a rather sickly pawn on the left-hand side there. So there goes the rook, threatening the knight. Pawn blocks it. Bishop retreats, attacks the rook. Simon responds by attacking the bishop, but the bishop threatening to come in there now and do all kinds of terrible things. Very unpleasant. Very unpleasant for black. He's shaking his head. He knows he's in trouble. Rook there, but no, that's allowed. Bishop g6. That won't be nice. There it goes. Double attack on this knight. Rook's covering it, but now the pawn's gone. That pawn's gone as well. This is going to be a very simple technical win. What's going to happen is that all 4 pieces left on the board, apart from this bishop here that I'm circling, are going to leave the board. And then it's just going to be a bishop and 2 pawns against a king. There goes the rook. So now it's king and bishop and 2 pawns against 2 pawns. What will happen is that the extra bishop will win one of those pawns and the game will be over. All Simon can do is try and exchange pawns, because if it's bishop and king versus king, it's a draw. But in fact, he can't exchange this last pawn. This last pawn is a winner. It will become a queen. There is nothing Simon can do about that with best play. He has to give up his own pawn. And now this pawn's going to make a touchdown on this e8 square. And that's that. The rest, as we say, is just technical. Pawn comes to e6, goes to e7, goes to e8, promotes to a queen. How much time has Gauri got? 56 seconds. Yeah, he needs about 12 or 15 seconds to finish this off maximum. Pawn promoted, and we'll play it out for the spectators. But this pot, there we are, putting the king in the corner, cutting him off. And now it's just a matter of bringing the bishop in or the king. Nice. Queen to the end, mate. There you go. Check, choke, mate.
Whoa. Very, very cleanly done.
It was. That was impressive. That was really good technique. Simon was never in that. He might have had some chances to resist, but Gauri didn't give him any. So Simon fighting for his life here, Jeff.
Yeah, he's in the red zone. That means he's going to be all in here. He cannot fold. I love the addition. I love it. The red, it's very clear. It's very, very, there's no way to say you didn't see it. It pops right out at you. And as a player, you don't want to lose on a technicality. You don't want to fold out. And we see Gauri fist pumping. He got a queen.
He got a queen. And he's ahead, I think.
I mean, he's got a had a promotion hand there.
Yeah, was that an empress?
Look at his hand. He's got queen. I mean, he's got rook, knights. I mean,
he's just got pieces. He's got no pawns.
How many? What does that tally to? That's got to be table
Goodness
max.
me, that's 18, 23. Is that 31? No, it's 29. 29. It's a monster hand.
It's a monster.
I mean, given that we reckon the average choker hand is 16 chess points, composed of queens 9, rooks 5, bishops, knights 3, and pawns 1, he's got an absolutely massive hand.
The only pawn he's got is the default one that was put on the board. I mean, he is. I might be able to win this game, even though there is a queen for Simon, or from GingerGM. So it's not. He's not drawing dead, but he's in trouble.
It's not.
What would you say the odds are if you're given these two pieces on an equal strength of player ability? What would be the percentage one player with?
I'd say that Ginger's got a 25%. Well, the player with the inferior pieces might win in choker maybe 25% of the time. A lot depends also on the placement. So that the joy of choker is that there's 3 phases you've got to be expert in. So you can place your pieces on bad squares and suddenly
he's got 2 queens, right?
Yep.
Oh man.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
this is going to hurt. When Simon sees this, it's going to hurt.
Yeah, you don't expect it. He's like, I got a queen. Well, it's worst case scenario. So he's kind of like, that's unlucky, but he's going to really feel it when he sees the double queen. The double queen just feels, that's tough. Let's see the reaction for yeah, he's not going to like this. Look at that. There it is. He is appalled.
That is not nice. That is, wow. I think that might be the record, actually. So that's 9, 9, 18, 23, 29. 29 points plus the extra pawn at the beginning. A 30-point choker start. Wow. Simon, in contrast, is 9, 14, 17. So it's 30 against 20. So, again, the best strategy, the easiest strategy, the way to clean this up is to exchange pieces. So as soon as Gauri has exchanged Simon's 1 queen, the game is over. Simon can't touch him. Oh, and he's actually allowed it. Why has he done that? Queen there swaps the queens. What am I missing? Oh, well, he didn't even bother. Now queen check down the bottom will also swap. No, you've got to be careful. Oh, that's clever. That's evil. So if queen check, queen takes queen, rook takes queen, and the rook swings down there with the checkmate, Simon's setting a trap. Has he fallen for it? Am I missing? Oh, it's bishop takes queen check. I didn't see that. Okay. He saw that. Bishop takes queen. That wins. It's all over. He swapped the queens. He wins the bishop on the rebound. The game is over. Simon might as well resign. He's 4 pieces to nothing down. It's all over.
And Ginger, his record now, he's out of the Choker Cup. He is won his duel, and now he's going to be 1-2 overall. And chokemate, there it is, with style. Gets it done. Takes it out cleanly. Very great, very, very nice showing for Gauri Shankar. He really played well and ran well. And we saw a couple uncharacteristic mistakes, if you will, from GingerGM based on his ability. There it is, 3-1 final score.
Very impressive on the chessboard from Gauri Shankar. Have to say, all credit to him. So, Jeff, I'm really looking forward to next week's Joker Challenge Cup final between Hikaru Nakamura and Eric Rosen. What do you know about Hikaru's poker style? Do you know anything about his poker ability?
I do not know much. I do believe he has some understanding of the game. I know he's got some crossover with the Twitch. He's got some understanding. I would imagine it's at least a basic level. So I think I don't know how much choker he's played. I know that he is aware of the game, and I'm always gonna, as a betting man, I think you would have to just feel like he's just one of those guys that gets it done. But his opponent's tough. It's gonna be a tough match. So we'll be looking forward to that for sure.
Well, thanks very much indeed for commentating with me. As ever, it's been a great pleasure to have your insights into poker. We're all learning as we go along in this great game. I look forward to seeing you same place, same channels, same time, same day of the week, next Thursday for the Joker Challenge Cup final. Jeff Gross, thanks very much again.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks.
So here I am with Gauri Shankar, the victor. Congratulations on your victory in this Joker Duel WSO, your first entry into the competitive environment. Very, very well played.
Thanks, Malcolm.
How much Joker do you play?
This is I played maybe 10 times before this with friends. I played once on my stream for an hour or so. So not much experience. I think Simon has more experience than me in chess and in poker.
Yes, but you outplayed him on the chessboard. I mean, congratulations on the way you outplayed him. You were helped by a couple of blunders. He seemed a little fast and loose with his queen on a couple of occasions, right?
Yeah. I think you underestimate the tactic because you think it's, you're in the poker phase and then you forget that, there's still a chess game to be played. Sometimes you can, kind of rest up a little bit, ease up a little bit after you're up, you're in a good position. But there is still tricks, especially in the beginning phase, I guess. I think I had this bishop f2 check. I don't know if you remember, but I won his queen.
Yes.
And so that was probably that was my best move in terms of placement of my pieces, where I foresaw that he would take one of my rook. I think I'm not sure.
Rook. Yeah.
And then I was able to win his queen. So yeah, there's a lot of tricks there. So there's a game within a game, I guess.
But you adapted incredibly well because to a chess player, this is so unfamiliar. You start the game, there's wide open spaces everywhere. Your king doesn't have a lot of cover. You did extraordinarily well to adapt to it, particularly when you played 10 times with friends on the app.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not easy. And playing a grandmaster.
Yeah. I mean, yes. I don't know how I did it. Maybe it's just instinct. Maybe I don't know.
Do you play a lot of blitz chess?
Yeah, I stream a lot, so I play a lot of 3 minutes, and I play bullet. I think my blitz 3 minute and 1 minute are my highest online ratings.
Right, because what we've discovered in Joker is that it's like the 19th century player de la Bourdonnais said, "He who attacks has the advantage." And that feels what it's like in Joker. When you've got 180 seconds for everything, if you're being checked and hassled all the time, you burn up the time. And Simon ran out of time a couple of times, didn't he, in crucial moments?
Yes. Yeah. Tough match. I feel bad for Simon because I think if I wasn't so lucky, maybe he would have just won the whole thing. I was a bit lucky at certain hands. I think he was much better at me than bluffing. And
yes,
I think the poker part of the game, actually.
Yes,
I believe.
Did you play poker a lot or a little?
With friends. I play Texas Hold'em with friends, but I have some experience, but not really. I never played in a casino or anything.
Well,
not a gambling person.
You're an extraordinarily good choker player already. Congratulations. Are you going to watch the final, Karu Nakamura against Eric Rosen next week?
Yeah. Actually, Eric is like the first person I talked to when I was approached to, playing choker, and he said it was very interesting to try, so I did. So yeah, I'm going to watch Hikaru. I don't know how they... I mean, I watched Eric playing Hikaru a little bit, and it seemed like Eric is quite a good player as well.
He is. No, he is. He's experienced. In fact, Eric actually reminded us suddenly that you can actually castle in choker.
You could.
Yeah. If you put your king on e1 and your rook on h1 or a1, you can actually castle.
Okay, but I mean, probably you won't, because like you have no cover anyway, so there's no point. But
Well, Eric, I think Eric puts pawns on e2, f3, g4, and then he castles kingside, for example. He did that, which worked like a charm in one of the games, actually. So congratulations again, Gary. You're back on in 2 weeks for the Winner Stakes All choker duel.
Okay.
Do tell all your fans on your stream about the final next week. We hope you'll be commentating, and we look forward to seeing you here on Choker once again.
Okay. Thank you, Malcolm. Yeah.
Good night.
Okay, take care.